Hello everybody, welcome to another bootleg review. In today's video we're taking a look at another knockoff figure. This time it's the knockoff of the MPM Megatron. This is aptly known as Honey Badger. It comes in a brown shipper, and that is it. There's a plastic clamshell that it sits in, and we get some accessories. Now, don't quote me on this. All of the lawsuit kind of threats floating around on the interweb. Apparently Black Mamba and Wei Zhang have both been approached by Hasbro and had their knuckles wrapped. Now both Black Mamba and Wei Zhang deny this, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I believe there's been a couple of arrests in China as well. Lots of things have been seized, but we already know that Wei Zhang have rebranded. And like I said, don't quote me on this, but this looks and feels exactly like a Legendary Toys or Black Mamba or a Transform Element, Infinite Transformation. That figure, that style of figure made from those factories, it feels nigh on impeccable, and it looks the same. The plastic consistencies are pretty much identical. It's got to be them. It's just rebranded to avoid any seizures, and don't get me wrong, it is outstanding. Looking at the accessories first, we get his gun, exactly the same as what we got with the official, albeit it's done in this really nice kind of smoked grey with all of these highlighted accents. And we get two of these whip chains, which again can be switched out. So that means he can now battle with both of these, having them both drop down and the claw hands attached to either. And here we have him on the display base, comparing the two. I've just got to hope that these don't get stuck, because he has a very wide kind of foot base, and he does take up quite a lot of space on the turntable. But you can see just instantaneously the difference in tone and texture. The paint apps make the world of difference. Height wise, they are identical from what I can tell. The joints are slightly different. I've seen a few pictures of these guys where this one does look bigger, but that's generally because they've extended those ankle pivots and just popped his feet up slightly. They do hold remarkably well. It's just shocking the difference between these two when you run them side by side. Both figures are excellently done. It's just, I think the knockoff has once again pulled off the better paint applications. It just kind of shines through, and the official looks like it's been made on the cheap, which of course we know isn't the case. The officials spent all of that time and effort making the design and putting it into practice. And then the bootleg companies come along and said, oh, we like what you've done there, but this is better. And here they are both together off the turntables. Some really big differences with these characters. There's actually more die cast in the official than there is in the bootleg, which is a rarity, but I think there's reasons that they've done what they've done, maybe to cut costs, but as well as that, to make him more stable. I mean, if we look at the toes on the official, these do not stay where they're meant to. They constantly drop down, and he's a bit wibbly wobbly. Now, there's a lot of flex in there. The unofficial, still a bit of flex, but the joints do kind of hold into position a lot better. These are all plastic, and they do lock and tab. We've actually replaced the flexi plastic panels. These are now die cast. And there's just something kind of more sinister, I guess, about the paint scheme. It makes him actually look more metallic without the need for actually having any metallic paint on there. The hands more sturdy. There's a lot of flex in this plastic. These are kind of solid and more rigid. It's each to their own. I mean, not everybody's going to want a Megatron done with this style of paint applications. Some people may get a hold of this Megatron and kind of start from scratch and kind of dry brush him and go over, do a bit of battle wear on him. Like I said, each to their own. It's neither here nor there. Now, as you can see, I've displayed the wings differently. On this, I've got these kind of done as a square. I can, of course, fold these over and have them the other side, and they can tab in as well. This is actually exactly as it comes out of the packaging, though. This is just dropped down and it's sat in the packaging like that. But the correct transformation has it all folded up nice and neatly on the back, like so. These possibly fold out. I've got them folded out on here, haven't I? I think they're meant to actually fold in. It's been a while since I transformed them, but genuinely very happy with how this guy looks. Not that there was anything wrong with the official product. It just, I don't know, when we've had the likes of Legendary Toys and Black Mamba and Wei Zhang giving us the kind of painted up figures, the official looked a little bland. I mean, this is probably the least bland official paint that we've had in a long time. But again, just in comparison, vastly different. And from various different oversized brands. Here we have our 2007 kind of Decepticon lineup. We've got Wei Zhang giving us their offering Blackouts, and then we've got 3 from Black Mamba there. And then we've got Dream Factory giving us their Bone Crusher. And of course we have the new Honey Badger giving us Megatron as well. I think these do look exceptional together, but having them all like this, does that now mean that Blackout is too small for this Megatron? Because I originally had him as more of a grinder figure, but maybe he's too small for that now. I don't know, maybe this Megatron's too big. What was he, 33 feet? Either way, he looks exceptional alongside his comrades. And here we have him alongside the Black Mamba Revenge of the Fallen Megatron, based on the Studio Series Megs, and of course the Legendary Toys take on MPM Optimus. So that's kind of your scale there. I still think the Prime looks far too small in comparison to their Megatron. Maybe Megatron is just too big, the Black Mamba one. I know it's designed to scale with the Black Mamba Prime, who's slightly larger, but then if we bring in the Black Mamba Prime, or possibly even the new Wei Zhang Prime, he really doesn't scale with the MPM line. I mean, aesthetically, paint-wise, etc., yes, he does, but he is far too big in comparison to the MPM Megatron. Or is Megatron too small? I don't know. If Prime is 28 feet, and Megatron's meant to be 33, 34, I think. So, yeah, doesn't quite scale. I mean, personally, I like how they look together, because I liked the G1 aesthetic. I liked how Prime and Megatron were a very similar size when they fought. But, of course, scale junkies alike, these two do not scale. Right, now let's get up close and personal with Megatron. Absolutely gorgeous figure. People said they've had problems with the head. I can't say there's a great deal of problems there. If anything, the hinge on the underside of the head is a bit loose and it does tend to pop out, but everything turns as it should, rotate sideways. We do still have the I am Megatron head movement. Just really gorgeous face sculpt on there. We can bring down the chest. We have the Allspark shoved in there with all of the cracks in his torso. Push that back on and just tab those back in on either side, like so. Joint wise, everything's nice and firm. No rubber to the joints, it's all very solid. Everything looks and feels as it should. Very solid and professionally done. Waist does still rotate, no ratchet or anything in there. Legs come forwards, no rubber in those ratchets either. There's no kind of resistance. They do exactly what they need to. One of my biggest gripes about the MPM Megatron was the kind of rubbery joints, there's just such a big jump in those ratchets. They just feel almost gummy, which is a shame because you know, they spend a lot of time and effort on these figures. But things like this is all kind of rubbery plastic. This is rubbery, this is rubbery. That's all been replaced by hard plastic on the bootleg, so bear that in mind. Right, now coming down to the knees, we do have a ratchet joint in there. These legs can come forwards and backwards as well. These are hinged here. The feet themselves can tab in like so. So we've got a hinge which locks that into position. But if we untab, we can bring the foot all the way out. That hinges all the way down, so we get a nice wide stance. And again, the toes can hinge. This can all kind of jump up. So you can add a little bit of height to your figure if you see fit, but it's not really designed for that. And we can add a bit of an arch to those feet as well. I think it's a tough one because I do want to support the officials, because if we don't support the officials, we'd never get to these bootlegs anyway. I don't know, surely it wouldn't cost them, I mean, the price that Takara charge now, especially for the likes of the MP-44, surely they could deliver a similar sort of paint scheme to this in the get-go, and then the bootleg companies wouldn't really have much to do. I mean, this has no real improvements over any of the joints or any of the engineering. It is just solely cosmetic, and isn't that something that maybe Takara could deliver in the get-go? I don't know. Maybe there's a lot more cost involved in painting up a figure. Maybe they want to keep it plain so we can paint them ourselves, or I don't know. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, isn't there? But personally, I prefer how this one looks. And I do like having two of those whips as well. I can make them kind of really battle ready. There's something very imposing about this figure. And for those wanting to kind of take the Kamehameha gun technique there, he's kind of blasting that off. I mean, it's incredibly well balanced. That's not touching anything at all. And it looks exceptional. Lots of different options for this figure. Yes, that's vastly down to Takara with their original design, but it just looks so good. As lovely as he looks in bot mode, let's get him transformed up. We want to unplug this backpack piece. That's just going to tab down. The wings can then tidy up like so. These actually are going to extend, and this bit here is going to extend as well. These will then come back out like so. And again, on this side, that'll come back out like so. Redoing what we had going on when he was in his box. There's actually another hinge down here, which comes out, and this wing section is going to come round, and that'll push and lock into position. And we can just move that wing out of the way. So again, on this side, bring that all the way around, bring this all the way down, so it locks into position. This will then come down and across, and then this will line up. And push and tab in, forming one of the wing struts. And that's what kind of Megatron looks like with his wings pointed outwards. Again, an option if you so choose. Not really my personal preference, but each to their own. Right, for now, let's just move these back out, and we're going to move Megatron's arms up. Just tabbed in underneath this neck here. The arms will untab and come down. They also untab from the side of this chest panel. The head section can come up. This panel comes up like so. So this is all now kind of disengaged, and these are going to extend and extend like so, and again extend. Going to come up and tab in, going to come up and tab in. These can come around, these can come around. These hinges open, allowing for these to come up, And where we now have this large void in the center of the torso, the arms will come in and push and collapse. And again, on this side, they're just going to come in, and there's a hinge at the base which pushes inwards and collapses. And then there's that tab just between the two sections which locks those into position. This chest panel will then come up like so. This panel collapses and pushes into the top there. Can I just point out something, right? I've got the instructions here. I'm trying to go through them. I ended up just referring to my own work because these are pretty shocking. It's kind of guess where you're going, and it's all back to front. Honey badger. Oh dear. Right. We're left with something like this at the moment, making sure that we've got the points on his head up. Point on his head up, like so. The arms, if we take a look at these, there's this tab just on here. Make sure that this is located on here. And if you look at the underside, these should locate nicely just in either side there. So that's all tabbing in. Come around to these legs. Straighten those out, and you want to just disengage this part here, like so. This can then unlock from the back, slide down inside, all the way down, like so. The feet are going to close off together and push and tab in. And then we've got this tab here. It's going to rotate around, and that's going to push and lock in to help stabilize these legs. Like so. Right, from here, come round to these wings. These are going to flatten, and this is going to rock backwards. Make sure that part is fully tabbed in, and then straighten this up. This is going to rock. If you look, there's a tab here and a tab here, hole here, hole here. These will rock and line up. Make sure this is all flat on the top. These wing panels should, he says, line up nicely with these legs. Now they line up in two places. You have the very tips here, and then if you look on the underside here, these are just going to push down and lock in on both sides, making sure that they're square, and making sure that that one's square. There we go. There we go. Those are both pushed in. And then we have these wing panels. They push in here, and this comes around and pushes in like so. That's all starting to tab in nicely. Make sure that these hands are correctly formed. You want to make sure that these rotate. So this tab is facing upwards. Yeah, like that and like that. So that just goes over and pushes and tabs in. And then this one on the underside also latches into position. And we can just plug his gun section into the back there, like so. I think I've got that right. There you go. There is Megatron in his vehicle mode. I don't like this particular look for Megatron. I know some people do. I definitely prefer the Revenge of the Fallen. In fact, I actually prefer the Dark of the Moon. That's my kind of favourite look for him. But for now, I think this can work. We've got everything that we need to. We can bring the fins up. Actually looks like some sort of like Klingon bird of prey, doesn't it? There's a crossover for you. And here he is with Mega Blunderbuss. See what I mean about these flexible plastic pieces? Very, very flexible. These are rigid. So yes, there is more chance of them breaking, but the likelihood of them breaking is pretty much next to none. But again, get to see the biggest difference in these two paint application wise. Do we really miss this chunk of die cast here? Not really. The plastic version works just as well. Yes, it removes some of his weight, but at the same time holds everything together a lot nicer, and I can't help but feel that it was die-cast just for being die-cast, because there's no particular part of the torso in the movie, for what I recall, that needed to be highlighted in that particular silver. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, especially for the cost. I know I paid a fairly decent price. I think Kapow had Megatron in at the time. I think that's where I got it from. They had him in at a fairly decent price, and I just thought, I'll hold on to him and see if we get anything better. And there we go, we have. So I'll be putting mine up for sale soon, I think. But for now, this is the KO version of MPM-8 Megatron by Honey Badger. Still an hilarious name. Colours are definitely more in keeping with the likes of the Megatron that we got from the last night. For example, it's definitely that kind of darkish, metallic, shadowy grey being used. If you missed out on the Takara version of Megatron, then I would go with the Honey Badger. If you already have the Takara, is this one that much better? Swings and roundabouts. I think the Takara version does have that initial charm, but I can't help but think that the knockoff companies have done a better job. Thanks again to TF Direct for making this review possible. If you want to grab a hold of your Honey Badger, then click the link in the description below. Until next time, from myself and Megatron, goodbye.
Thank you.